What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Welcome back to another video with me talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm not alone for the first time ever doing these videos on this channel. I am not alone, but I'm also with a pretty familiar face that if you guys even watch this channel, or I'm sure if you watch this channel, you watch his channel, it is James Hill, aka Mr. Bucs Nation, joining us today. James, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Ready to dive into some Buccaneers content and dive into some of these position groups. It should be a fun time.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the reasons that I decided to have James on was this is kind of a full circle moment here. Okay, this is going to be the start of a series that we're doing of basically reviewing the Buccaneers position groups, position by position, and just seeing how they did and maybe seeing what the future holds. Now, the reason James is here is when I was working on his channel, Mr. Bucks Nation, before the season ever began, I did position group previews for James's channel. So I think it'd be nice to, bring him back here and have a discussion on, after it was all said and done, how these players and how these position groups ultimately did. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's start off with the quarterbacks. Of course, you had Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask on the roster most of the year, right? And then John Wolford actually joined the active roster about midway through, but he was on the practice squad. And obviously, Baker Mayfield, we're basically going to be talking about him, right? Because Kyle Trask, I think, played one or two snaps in that Colts game, and that was pretty much it. So we're basically going to be talking about Baker Mayfield in this one. So your overall thoughts on Baker Mayfield's season, and did he defy your expectations? Because I think he defied a lot of people's expectations.
Yeah, I mean, like this isn't something I've been shy about. I came away incredibly impressed with Baker and what he did this year. I think he earned a contract extension. I think that he could be the guy for the Bucks for the next 3 years potentially. I mean, that's not something I've really been shy about saying. You take a look at his stats, and I'm going to combine playoff stats with this because I think that that's fair, right? Over 4,600 passing yards. He had 34 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. I mean, you give me stats like that on a year, I'm pretty satisfied. So overall, I was incredibly satisfied with what Baker was able to do. I think he exceeded expectations to your point, like you said, and I think he should and will be back with the Bucks. And he gives a lot of reason to be optimistic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought what I found interesting about his year as a whole is just like the Bucks as a team, there were highs and lows, right? There was lulls during the season, and there was times during the season where things weren't going very well, and it was kind of looking like, hey, maybe Baker Mayfield wouldn't be the guy in Tampa. So I did think that during that, especially during that 4-game winning streak, right, he was able to really rally the team together and play some of his best football. And then, like you mentioned, the playoffs, playing that well against Philadelphia Eagles, and then playing well against a pretty good Lions team on the road. Yeah, he did have the 2 turnovers, but I mean, played a pretty good game in that one, and certainly wasn't the number one reason why they lost. I mean, it wasn't like you can pin it all on him. So I definitely think, again, Mayfield, yes, did defy my expectations as well that I had for him heading out, into the 2023 season. So I do think that, and we're gonna get into the contract here in just a moment. About what a potential deal would look like, but I do think, yeah, he has earned the right to at least, have that contract. And honestly, for me, most of the year it was up in the air. But I think the 4-game winning streak combined with the playoffs performance that he had, I do think he has played well enough. And just like you read those stats, I mean, if you would have told somebody at the beginning of the year that that would be his end of the year stats, they probably wouldn't believe you. So I do think those types of stats, and also shout out Baker Mayfield was just named to the Pro Bowl as a replacement, I believe, for Dak Prescott. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, shout out to him. He's going to be in the Pro Bowl, and I do think that it all is going to lead to a new contract in Tampa Bay, but um, obviously, I think what's going to be on a lot of people's minds is what is that contract going to look like ultimately? And I think that worries some people. And look, I think they have a right to be worried. I do, because you have to be careful, right? Mayfield's biggest problem in his NFL career so far has been consistency. That's been a big issue for him. And, he's coming off a great year. Can he replicate that, right? And can he replicate that after having a much higher cap hit than the basically $4 million one that he had this year? the Bucs got a bargain in Baker Mayfield last year, right? This year it's going to be a little bit different. They're going to have to pay him, and quite frankly, it wouldn't shock me if it's a deal similar to a Geno Smith, right? And I think that's something that people have really compared often. For Baker Mayfield, they've really wanted to do that. Now, as according to Spot Rack, Mayfield's market value is $27.1 million a year. That falls in line. I would say it's in that 25 to $30 million range. What are your thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, I would say that that is in range. You want to be completely honest, I could see him making a little bit more. I mean, I really could. I don't think that that's a crazy thing to say. I don't think that it is unjustifiable given the year that Baker had. Now, I know people are going to have reservations and say, well, after the fact, like next season, is he going to justify that money? Is the season after that, is he going to justify that money? We won't know until it happens, folks. There's going to be a lot of factors that go into that. But based on the play this year of Baker, division win, playoff berth, right? Like those are things where it's, man, yeah, that does justify Baker getting that type of money, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like there's going to be some teams I'm sure that are interested in him in the open market. I'm sure we're looking at a team like the Falcons who just hired Raheem Morris, and then they hired Zach Robinson, who worked with Mayfield a little bit when Robinson and Mayfield were both with the LA Rams. So there's a team there. Like if the Vikings let go of Kirk Cousins, like would they possibly be interested? So I do think that there's going to be some competition for him if the Buccaneers do let him go to the open market. Ultimately, I don't think he's gonna get there. I just don't think they're even gonna let him get to the open market. So I do think they'll come to a deal quite similar to the Geno Smith thing. Like you said, maybe even a little bit more than that 25 to 30 million. I would be surprised if it was like 40. That would surprise me, but I could see it being a smidge over 30 million a year. And of course, that doesn't mean he's gonna be counting on the cap $30 million. You can rearrange that stuff, but I think that's what the basis of the contract could be.
Yeah, I mean, like even I saw somebody, I think it was like Jeremy Fowler or Dan Graziano. I think it was actually Dan Graziano said like he's probably gonna get a Daniel Jones type deal. I was like, I don't know about all that, but because that's a lot of money. But 30 million, I would say like 32, 33 million is where I'm like, okay, you're really reaching the levels of comfortableness here for me. Anything above that, and I'd be like, ooh, that's a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money. But no, I have no doubts he's going to be back. I really don't. I think, maybe Canales being gone puts a bit of a pause on that, right? But I still think he's back. I think that the organization loves him and that he really appreciates the organization. I mean, dude, he talks about it in the way of just like it literally saved his career and just like where he was at mentally from last year, right? I mean, so the appreciation is really there. I think he will be back and for a pretty decent amount.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this position group thing only features one player. But hey, when it's the starting quarterback, it's the starting quarterback. So, what did you guys think of Baker Mayfield's 2023 season, though? Would love to hear what you guys thought in the comment section below. Do you feel that he's deserved another contract? If so, what would you like that contract to look like? Yeah. Go ahead, James.
Real quick, just to comment on the other two guys, and what their futures may hold. Man, you re-sign Baker, Trask is done. Like Trask time's
Well,
done.
I mean,
Trask.
I think we can put together that he's done anyway.
Yeah, like Trask time has been done, and like even that's going to be a pick that we're going to be looking back on hindsight and being like, man, what was going on here? Like we don't know, and like that's going to be an interesting case study when we get to it. I would argue that John Wolford's probably not going to be back either because Dave Canales isn't here anymore.
True.
Maybe he's going to go to Carolina. Maybe he's going to go to Carolina to back up Bryce Young. I don't know. So that's just to kind of put a bow on that. Like Trask next year, probably his last year with the Bucs.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point about John Wolford. I didn't even really connect those two. So, yeah, but let me know what you guys think about Kyle Trask, about John Wolford, and obviously, most importantly, about Baker Mayfield. Let us know what you want that contract to be, if you want him back at all. I know there are some people still that do not want Baker Mayfield to be back in the Bucs uniform, and it's for multiple reasons. But everybody has their reasons, and that's okay. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.